It's time now to welcome in once again Brian Ross with Real News here on Robin Hood Radio. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning to you, Marshall. Glad everyone is going well.
Hey, some interesting news that I wanted to bring up, and that is locally here, and it involves local and national. Here locally in New York State, Pat Ryan defeated a very, very popular Republican, Mark Molinaro, in the race for the congressional seat, a special election. They'll face off again in the general election. But in Alaska yesterday, a Democrat defeated Sarah Palin in the way they vote for there. And those are two races that, as small and as obscure as they might seem, indicate that some of the diehard Republican supporters of Donald Trump might be in a little bit of trouble.
I think they're increasingly having a hard time being diehard supporters, especially people who are thoughtful and who are smart. Looking at the headlines coming out of Mar-a-Lago and the Justice Department and just scratching their heads. Very hard to support Donald Trump. Not even he has offered some justification for what this is all about. And on top of that, the Supreme Court ruling on abortion, these two factors have fueled Democratic hopes that they're not going to lose the Senate and the House is going to be closer than they thought.
Well, we still have a ways to play out, but it's definitely turning into a much more interesting off-term election than originally thought.
Right. Well, any debate between the candidates at the House or the Senate level is going to have to involve Republicans being asked, what do you make of Donald Trump? Should he have had those top-secret classified documents? Should he have had his lawyers lie about it to the FBI? The answer to that can't be yes.
It's going to be very interesting to see how that develops. And let's go on to what's going on today. We're expecting a decision from the judge on the request by Donald Trump's lawyers to have a special master get control of those documents and review them. But the Department of Justice put out a very strong reason, 3 different points on why they don't think that should happen.
And it's interesting, the Attorney General has yet to, beyond his initial comments, no one has talked publicly, but they're doing the talking through court filings, which the Trump legal team has almost invited every time they challenge something. It gives the Justice Department an opportunity to respond in detail with damning new information as to whether there's going to be a special master to see whether, I don't think there's any standing that Trump has the right to these documents under the Presidential Records Act. They all belong to the government. They do not belong to him, even though he claims they do.
It's once again, it's going to be something interesting to watch. And you've got that, and you've got the January 6th Commission. All will be unfolding within the next couple of months. So once again, it adds more grist to the mill, as they say, for the upcoming elections. And also, when you take a look now at President Biden, he has gotten some major parts of what he ran on implemented, wrapping up finally with the college loan situation. I mean, really, for a first-term president with a very slim majority in Congress and dead even one-vote victory in the Senate, I think he's had one of the more substantial first terms of any president probably in the last 25 years.
Maybe not more than Lyndon Johnson with the Great Society Acts, but certainly Mr. Biden has put together quite a series of accomplishments that, as we've seen in the polls, have improved his approval ratings. And he speaks tonight in Independence Hall in Philadelphia about what's happening in America, and I'm not sure who's going to carry it, who's not going to carry it live. I'll be anchoring the coverage on Sirius Radio myself, but it'll be an important speech.
Yeah, a very important speech. Now, I want to move on to some international news. First of all, and this isn't funny, but the headline is funny. Russian oil chief dies in fall from window. You know, it's
Is
not.
that in the Onion or?
No, it's just actual truth. You know, it's one of those headlines you've seen, and you immediately look at it, and it's been reported in all media that the Russian oil chief died, but in the headlines, except for the BBC, nobody included it in a fall from a window. It's just too real, but it is comical. But it follows the Putin way of doing things.
Who do they think they're kidding, though?
Yeah.
Once again, sadly, too many of the critics have either been fallen out of windows or shot down on the bridges in Moscow by unknown individuals. We know what that government's all about. Yet, it continues to be an ugly stalemate in Ukraine. Ukraine's making a new offensive, trying to break the stalemate. Not sure it's going to be successful, but Putin has disrupted the world's economy, and played havoc with the cost of our gasoline and heating oil coming up this winter.
Going to the Ukraine, whether or not they'll have a broad success in their claim to reclaim in the southeastern part of the country land, but the fact is that 7 months into this now, that they're now in the position to even attempt an offensive move against the Soviet Union is mind-boggling.
It really is. And some of their tactics, whether that's from the Ukraine or with advice from the U.S. and NATO allies, but I'm sure you saw the story about how they have constructed plywood, sort of decoys that look like the U.S. missile systems, and that the Russians have been raining down their valuable missiles on these plywood decoys to great effect. And they've been claiming they've knocked out all these special long-range U.S. missiles, and apparently they haven't. They've just hit the wooden decoys.
All right, now let's switch back to not necessarily Donald Trump, but his lawyers. Would you want to be a lawyer? Would you want to be a lawyer? They have to be very careful the way they word things and the way they submit things and place things, because if they do it the wrong way, as a law firm, they could become in trouble.
Well, certainly, and the statements by the two lawyers, one that under oath essentially, that the best of my knowledge, looks like it was Christina Bob wrote this, there are no more classified documents, when there were so many more there. And then the other lawyer who was there at the time, refusing to let the FBI or the Justice Department official take a look at these boxes. They're jammed up. They're either going to be witnesses or they're going to be targets in this investigation, because at some point the FBI is going to want to question them about who told you there were no more documents.
Yeah, it's
and if the answer is Donald Trump, that's a serious matter.
Yeah.
And I suppose they can claim lawyer-client privilege, but as we've read and we know, there's a fraud exception there. If the lawyer's involved in a crime, and this would be obstruction of justice, that lawyer-client privilege goes away.
I want to switch back to international here, Brian, and once again, not much of a story, but still a story that raises the eyebrows, at least one of the eyebrows a little bit, and that's Taiwan has shot down a drone that people believe is a drone that was from China.
Well, that's a tinderbox for sure. I don't think that China has really. I mean, their goal has always been to sort of peacefully persuade Taiwan to rejoin the mothership, as it were. That hasn't gone well. And can we really imagine a Chinese invasion into that huge island, trying to subdue that island? That's not how they took over Hong Kong. That was under a contractual thing with the British, where they broke their word after 10 years about how they're going to run it. But it's to be watched closely. It's again a reminder. It's a perilous world we live in, and also I think a reminder, frankly, that President Biden has put together a pretty good consortium of allies to deal with Ukraine and Russia, and in Asia to deal with China and Taiwan.
Absolutely. Now, something as an investigative reporter that I wish more people would probably look into, and they're not aware of. We're talking about climate change and its effect on us. People seem to forget a news story that came out back in 2013, a program that the United States government was doing called the HARP program on weather control was unofficially shut down. But now people want more information on that program, because if you look at the date from when they shut it down and the absolute total turmoil in weather from that point on to now, could this HARP program have been a contributing factor, and is this program still going on that we just don't know about?
Now you're telling me something I did not know.
Yeah.
It sounds a little bit like a conspiracy theory, Marshall, I have to say, but you never know.
No, it really. The reason I know about it is because I heard about it, and I talked to a meteorologist friend about it way back then, and he said, "Well, I said, have you heard about the HARP program?" He goes, "Yeah, not much, but what it is a program that's akin to seeding the clouds and trying to to change weather patterns to produce better weather." And then the conspiracy theorists come in, where it became which I don't believe, where it has become a weapon to use in the military sense of the word. But it was a real program that actually was in operation, I think, for about 10 years. And it's just one of those things when you look at it, and you look at how much science fiction has become reality, especially with what Elon Musk is doing. Remember, we all used to laugh with rockets turning around and landing once again on when they come back into Earth. There's so much that science fiction has somehow predicted that has come true, that you just wonder a little bit about a strange scientific program that was created late in the 1900s and ended in the early 2000s. Could it have an impact? It's just something that crossed my mind,
It sounds like the meteorological version of the virus that got out of the lab when K-wire.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
Well, I'm going to look into that, because I had not heard about that until this very moment. I know there are programs and they are successful to seed clouds to create rain. We certainly could use it around here, that's for sure, looking at my brown lawn.
Yeah, it's called the HAARP program, and it's interesting when you get into it, because yes, like everything nowadays, it goes out into the social media world, and there's a lot of different things that people claim that are going on. But if you look at the basic facts from when the program was started and when it was ended, you know that was a real program. Now, all the wild rumors, who knows if they're true or not, but it's an interesting program to look at.
Well, Marshall, it's never boring to talk with you, I'll tell you that.
All right, Brian, have a great week. We'll speak to you next week.
Okay.
Take care.
Too. Happy Labor Day.
You too. Brian Ross with Real News here on The Breakfast Club on Robin Hood Radio.